I have very purposefully not prepared any content for this presentation. Why? Because it's about intuition. So I guess if I'm talking about intuition, may as well be intuitive. So EVT and intuition. Intuition for most people is the key to such a different experience of life, such a different future, so much more potential, because most people are kind of blocking it one way or another. Here's the thing. I've just finished making another video, actually, a presentation for the life coaching people, and it's about coaching and how traditionally a lot of coaches work with people on their behaviour and what they're doing and their habits and their lifestyle. Our philosophy has always been to help people on a much deeper identity-based level. And the story I told was about my dad, who was a smoker most of his life from when he was a young student. And he used to smoke a pipe. My dad used to play in jazz bands and he used to smoke a pipe. He was of that 1950s vintage. And it was really interesting. In his later life, he used to get these really bad headaches, and he knew it was the smoking that was causing the headaches. So he really wanted to quit. And he tried to quit so many times, and it drove him mad because he would be so stressed when he tried to stop. But everybody was trying to help him to quit smoking on this behavior level. Change the habit, you know, change your behavior. I once asked my dad, and I said to him, "Dad, why do you smoke a pipe? You know, everybody else smokes cigarettes, you smoke a pipe. Well, that's quite different." And he said, "Well, you know, Ed, the thing is, when he was a student back in the day, in the 1950s, my dad was a scientist." And that's what he said. He said, "Ed, the thing is, I'm a scientist. That's why I smoke a pipe." And I was like, "Okay, I don't really understand. You'll have to tell me a bit more about that." He said, "Well, when I went to university in the 1950s, all of the professors, all of the real scientists, the grown-up scientists, they all smoked pipes." He said, "And so me and my student friends, we thought, well, we'll be all grown up and smoke pipes as well, and then we will be like scientists." And, you know, that was as a young student in his, 1920. Fast forward to my dad in his 60s and 70s, or late 60s, I think, when he quit finally, he's still part of his identity. The smoking isn't just a thing he does, as a habit for nicotine and what have you. It's part of his identity of being a scientist. He was a analytical chemist. And so there's part of him that was like, if I stop smoking my pipe, I won't be a scientist anymore. I won't be me anymore. And so that's the big thing, isn't it, with coaching. If we work on that deeper level, and if you've studied with me or any of our trainers at our school, you know that that's really where we're coming from. Let's make these deeper identity changes, help our clients to become who they're supposed to be, who they always were, rediscover what we call their source code. And the reason I share that story is if anybody wanted to help my dad to quit smoking, they really had to also do it in a way where he could still be himself. He could still be the true, authentic version of him. And it makes for a really interesting conversation about intuition. Because here's the thing, if you are getting intuition from the wrong source, from a not optimal version of yourself, or from the world, from somebody else, if somebody else is giving you your information, it's not really intuition. It's somebody else's beliefs, it's somebody else's energy, it's somebody else's agenda or priorities. Whereas if you get the intuition, if you get the messages, if you're taking on board messages and goals and direction and energy that is coming from you, the real you, then you can trust the intuition. Let me make that a bit more clear. So what I do, and in EVT we have all kinds of modeling techniques for doing this. Very much like if you've studied at NLP in the past, very kind of similar techniques, but these are much more energetic based, much more energy based. And it's kind of a modeling where you are modeling the best version of yourself. So for me, if I am ever stuck, or I have a question or a problem to solve and I'm not sure what to do, or a question I don't know the answer and I feel stuck or frustrated and I'm not sure what to do, my immediate thought is to meditate, to find some quiet space, because that's where we do start on that doing level, that behavior level, where if you've ever studied the hero's journey, it starts with the call to adventure. In other words, you're in the real world and you're going to go into a different world. So the access point is right here, right now. You close your eyes, you're in this world, but as soon as you close your eyes, you go into this other world. Okay. Now, when you do that, then you can go to identity. You can say, well, I want to meet a version of myself, depending on what you believe about quantum physics and the world in general. You meet a version of yourself that is you, that has already solved this problem, that is already living the life that you would be living if you had solved the problem. So for me, I'll often try and catch up with myself, the successful, the version of myself that's done all the things I want to do, and they've figured out all the things I want to figure out. They've solved the problems I want to solve, and they're existing now in this moment, but in a different kind of realm or a different kind of level. And often for me, it's this character who is Ed in Italy. Okay, now this Ed, I've never been to Italy, funnily enough, but there's this version of me that's there, sitting in this beautiful square somewhere in Italy, probably in Rome, I'm not sure, sitting in a cafe with a newspaper or reading a novel, doesn't have a care in the world, very, very chill, very relaxed. And that person is sitting there, and this is the version of me that's figured it all out. Okay. And so in my meditation or in my kind of imagination exercise, my thought exercise, I get to take any problem, any challenge, any question that I have to this version of myself. Now, this is really important for various reasons, because it could, you could be doing the same exercise but going to ask Einstein or whoever, some other famous clever person. You could be going to ask Einstein the answers to everything, but you're going to ask yourself. But it's yourself, a different version of yourself, okay, a different future version of yourself. So when I go and ask Ed in Italy, what should I do? Like, I'm stuck. What's the answer here? I don't expect to be having this immediate conversation where Ed in Italy tells me the answers. But what it does is it opens up a process where my subconscious and my deeper energy is able to play with this idea. And I can guarantee you, when you start using that kind of exercise, you might not get an answer straight away to your biggest question. What should I do? What's the solution? What's the breakthrough? You might not get it straight away, but you will start to get a feeling that something is changing, that the energy is shifting. And, when you sleep on this, you're going to start waking up the next day, or suddenly in the middle of doing something else completely different, you'll suddenly have a breakthrough. Something will pop into your mind. And it doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers to you. Sometimes you start experiencing synchronicities and really kind of weird events in your life, because the intuition isn't just something coming from the universe or from out there. It's actually coming from you, from a different version of you that has already worked this out. Now, you might be one of these people like me who that just makes a lot of sense. Great idea. That makes an awful lot of sense. Some people would listen to this and say that is really, really wacky idea, but it's grounded in science, and it's also grounded in results. When I find somebody, like one of my clients, a successful coach or a business owner that is already doing really well, but is stuck at some level or other, if they've never really trained their intuition in this way, using techniques like EVT techniques, if they've never done that before, if they've never changed the conversation in their head, this is just such a big breakthrough. It's huge. And if you learn to do this for other people, it'll be one of the greatest skills, one of the greatest talents you'll ever have, because people are stuck in these loops. Okay, I don't want to labour the point, but I always think back to the Bob Proctor story, and I'm sure it was Bob Proctor that told this story about how he used to go back to his hometown somewhere in Canada, and whenever he went back to his hometown to visit his family, he'd go to this local pub where he used to go as a young man. And when he went to this pub, he said, without fail, when he walked in the door, all of the same people from 10, 20 years before were still there. And not only was it the same people in that pub, they were all sitting in the same seats and they were all having the same conversations. And he said it was just like weird, I guess, like being pulled out of the Matrix and kind of seeing this other world. But what was really interesting was, these are loops. We, as humans, we get ourselves into these loops. We all do it, not quite as dramatically as Bob Proctor's friends, but We all do that. I think research shows something like 45% of our behaviors and our thoughts are kind of on autopilot. They just go round and round in loops. And so one of the things that happens with these loops, like you can't have intuition and breakthroughs if you're in a loop. You've got to do, we call it a pattern interrupt. You've got to break out of that loop. And being able to do that for yourself, being able to do it for other people, where it often starts is the conversation. Because when you're doing something again and again and again, the same, the conversation goes around in circles. It doesn't change. Soon, and this is what we do as coaches, it's really powerful. As soon as you can help someone change the conversation in their mind from, I'll get up tomorrow and I'll do the same thing and I'll do what I always do because that's what I do. If you can get that change to, tomorrow's going to be an amazing day. Tomorrow's going to be different. Something different's going to happen tomorrow. And I've got some ideas and I'm going to let some other ideas come through. As to what I could change, what could be different, what new adventures I could go on. If you can really kind of hack into that conversation for your clients so that they start to talk to themselves in a different way, see different pictures of themselves in the future, have different feelings about what's possible for them, and just that will get rid of a lot of the stuff that's blocking them. I hope you found this useful. Like I said, I didn't really plan anything specifically, but I just want you to understand tapping into intuition and actually developing tools and techniques that you can use to kind of activate and amplify that intuition is never wasted time. Something you're just playing, it's one of these things, it's like, without me telling you exactly what to do, if you just think of intuition as a toy, as a game, and pick it up and play with it, some amazing things are going to happen.